episode of the Public Opinion Show with your host, Pam Morton. And also, remember that I have a very, very special sponsor, and that is the AKA Group. Ariane Kirkpatrick, who was on the last show, is wonderful, and she has so lovingly and willingly agreed to be a sponsor. So shout out and thank you again to her as well. I am so excited. I am loving summertime. I'm enjoying going on vacations. I'm enjoying just getting out here and enjoying the good weather. And I don't know if you all have noticed, but I am rocking this natural look. Remember, you all went on my natural hair care journey, and I'm gonna tell you, it's not as easy as some people say, because I got to do a lot, but I'm going to get my hair braided and twisted for the first time. I don't think I've ever had my hair braided. If it was, I don't remember. But I'm not supposed to have any products, so that's why I'm just been wearing my hair like this. But I'm telling you, taking care of natural hair is not for the faint of heart. You have to understand products, all that type of stuff. So I am planning on having another show about that natural hair care journey. I hope that you all enjoyed the last show that we did about generational wealth. And I hope that you all are talking about it with your families or amongst your friends, talking about how important it is to teach our children about financial literacy, about saving their money, about investing, so that they can have money to pass on to their children. And in that same particular vein, I'm going to have back my special guest host from last show, and she's going to join me again and talk further about finances and about getting your credit together, because I know that's a very important topic for a lot of people. You got to get that credit together. So we are going to see who our guest is again from the last show. If you missed the last show, then you are in for a treat, because she has a lot of information to share. And remember, if you enjoy watching this show, continue to like and subscribe to the show. So let's get started and meet my special host, Angela Wynnett Harrell. Angela is a mother, educator, mentor, and entrepreneur. Angela is a high school financial literacy teacher, and that's financial algebra by profession. On her journey, she has come to understand the value of managing, making, and multiplying money wisely. Financial literacy is an essential skill that can lead to greater opportunities and a more secure future. Understanding finances is a powerful tool that empowers individuals to make sound financial decisions, achieve their goals, and ultimately lead more prosperous and secure lives. Angela is dedicated to sharing her knowledge and experiences with others, guiding them towards financial success and independence. So let's meet Angela. Welcome back, Angie. I am so appreciative of you agreeing to be on the show again, because I really do just love your financial sense. I mean, it's sound, it makes sense, it's easy to understand. Some people try to come at people with this whole financial thing almost at a point where they don't understand things, or it just turns off. But thank you so much for coming. And it would not be the Public Opinion Show if we did not have a public opinion question or topic of the week. And the question is, getting to 800 or 900 credit score. What are the best strategies for repairing and improving your credit score? So it's just you and I today. So you can take as much time, and then we'll just jump right into having a conversation. But I think this is a wonderful conversation, because so many people have bad credit. I mean, I talk to people all the time, and they're like, well, if I get my credit together, I can do this, or I can't. I'm paying this much for my car because my credit, So what can people do?
Well, first is understanding that credit is nothing more than if somebody was to ask you to borrow money, what are some things that you would want to know about that person? Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna ask you that. It's like if you didn't know me, mm-hmm. and I came to you and said, Pam, could I borrow $5,000 from you? What would you want to know about me?
Well, first of all, I would want to know how you're going to pay me back, how quickly you're going to be able to pay me back. What's your history of paying people back? Is this something that you do? Is there somebody that can vouch for you, maybe, to say, okay, yeah, they're good for that. They're good for giving it back. So those are the things I would want to know, that you're a trustworthy person.
Yeah, and that's really what your credit score is.
Yes.
It's really the exact same thing.
Yes.
And one of the things with credit, which I thought was interesting when I was learning, is that you have to have some debt to have a credit score. So one of the things, the lesson that my mother taught to me about credit was don't go out and get all those credit cards and spend all that money and get yourself in debt. And that was it. There was no other lesson about credit. And that's really what we come to believe, right? And so I did not have a credit score. I didn't have any credit. I didn't have credit cards. I didn't get my first car until I was 25. So when I, found out that my credit score was so low, it wasn't because I had spent too much. It was because there was no history on me. And so for some people, your credit score just may be low because of that. Like if you're young, you may have you may have what I call a young credit score. You don't have any debt, right? So that may be the reason. And now that I'm older, I probably will never get to the 800. Now, why is that? Because I don't have a car note. I paid my mortgage off. I don't have any credit card debt. So now again, I put myself in the same situation. I don't really have a lot of debt. So my credit, is what they call a thin file. So if you're looking to, change some things about your credit, really, your payment history is a really big, indicator. That's like the highest percentage of what they're looking at. Like, what have you done in the past? And that was the same thing you said. If somebody came to you and asked you to borrow some money, you'd be like, okay, wait a minute, what have you paid people back in the past? Have you asked them for money? Like, how much debt do you have out there
in the street about it?
You want to ask some questions. And it's the same thing about your credit score. So you want to make sure you pay things on time. If you want, if you have to be late, call the credit company before before you're late and tell them, like, I hit some hard times. Can I, work out something with you? That goes a long way, because they may not, report that as being late, because that's your hardest hit.
Right.
Also, how much do you have out there on the streets? Like, that's the same thing. Are you just asking me, or are you asking a whole bunch of people, right?
How many recent,
right? How many people do you owe, right? Yes. So that's the same thing as well, that you want to make sure your debt ratio is low as well. And your mix of credit. Do you have credit card, mortgage, a car note? Those things are all look differently, right? Because if you have a mortgage and you're paying a mortgage for your home, that's acceptable, right? So that's going to be a good debt, what we call. But then, having a bunch of credit card debt where you went out on your shopping spree and you're not paying it back, that's going to be not looked at as favorably. So you want to have a mix, but having a car note, having, a mortgage is okay. So you just want to make sure your mix is good as well. So the biggest thing that I will tell people, and one of the reasons I found myself having a really bad credit score. People don't know that about me, but back in 2017, I was scammed. I had a lot of debt that was out there, and my credit score was really in the 500s. And I was like, okay, I can't stay here. So what am I going to do? I have to face it. So a lot of people will just not face, what is there, and they won't start working on it and having a plan. So you want to get a plan, right? You're in denial. And I had to, help with the company. I went ahead and paid a service. So they went through and combed through my 3 credit reports. And saw, like, what do I need to dispute? How do I need to dispute it? When do you need to dispute it? Because some of those things are like, you can't just keep disputing. You want to have a certain time limit that you're actually sending those dispute letters. And so, working with a company is also a great idea to get your credit.
Now, when you say a company, you mean a financial repair company?
A financial repair company. There's a lot of different companies. I won't, do not go out and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, to get yourself out of debt, and you're putting yourself in debt. But usually if you find a company that's around $100, they can do some work for you. Now, you can do all of this on your own too, because you have YouTube University that's out there. You can find that. But for me, I wanted to make sure I was doing the process correctly. So I went to a company and paid for people to do that. And now I help people do that myself. So I went through a company to get help, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm understanding more. And now I can also help people to do that as well.
Well, that's wonderful, because when you think about it, that's the way you can really help somebody, is if you have been through something yourself.
Yes.
it's one thing to just tell people things. But it's another thing if you can actually say, I was where you are. Right. It can be done. Because some people think now, they just want to give up. They're like, my credit score has been low. It's just insurmountable. But it really isn't. And like you said, I think there's a lot of ways, like you said, with the credit repair companies. Also, some people are willing to give you a payment plan that really works with you, or even to reduce some of it, or forgive some of the debt. Now, I mean, that could result in some tax, income or whatever, but it still may help increase your credit score or whatever.
Absolutely. So, or also, I tell people credit is still really about a mindset. Mm-hmm. You have to make sure you have your mind right, because I don't want you to get your credit repaired and you haven't fixed your habits, because then you're going to be right back at the same spot, right? So you want to make sure,
you got to understand.
So you got to
clean
make
one
sure,
day, you want to stay clean.
You want to make sure you have your mindset right, because it's several different ways that can help as well, because your length of history is one of the things that's on your credit report as well. So I'll tell people one of the myths is that, okay, I paid this credit off, and I'm sure you've seen it, especially in our churches, we'd be like, cut the cards. I'm like, okay, you can cut them, but don't close them. Yeah. Right? Don't close the card, because that length of history is one of the things that's factored into your credit report. Because that's what you were saying. Like, how long, have you have this history of, do you have history of paying things off? Right. And you want to leave that card on there. And they will eventually probably close it if you're not using it, but you want to leave that card on there and don't close it. Another thing you can do is get a trade line. So a trade line is where you have a friend or a relative that has great credit, and you say, please, can you put me on your credit and jump on their back? That's what I give me a piggyback, right? And so they don't have to give you the card. So you don't have access to maybe using the card, but yet for a period of time, you may have access to their good credit history. Right. That may also help you. And I'm going to give a tidbit for people who have teenagers. For your teenagers, if you are good with your credit, a great rule of thumb is to put your teenager on as an authorized user for your credit card. Okay. Because then when they become 18, they're going to have a history of paying and having great credit. And so now they can get, so when my daughter turned 18, I think she was 19, she was able to purchase her car totally in her name without a cosigner. And so now she's 23 and she has over a credit score that's over 750 because she has been using my credit, that history there since she was a teenager. But then now when she got the car note in her own name, then now that gave her credit. And so now she has this really great credit score and she's not even, 23 yet.
And that's wonderful. And that's such good advice. Not giving them the card just to go willy-nilly on it, but just, to add them. And like you said, you were paying it, right? Or if she, even make them pay some of it on, if they have a little job or something like that. But at least that is a good way to set them up so that they can have, good credit. I remember when I was in college, it was a local department store. Actually, it was Macy's then, and it changed to make company and Macy's again. But they were giving all the college students these $300 credit lines. And everybody went out almost the next day and ran it all the way up to 300. Then they didn't have any money to pay it. So that's another thing. You have to make sure that you have the means and ability to be able to pay. It's one thing to get the credit card, and this is how people mess themselves up. But then they're not, like you said, they're not staying up on the payments, and they're getting behind. And then sometimes you feel overwhelmed, and then it's just like, the heck with it.
Right. Well, you have to know how to use credit. So I'm going to we talked about generational wealth before. So when I have a conversation with my daughter about credit, I don't use my debit card. I know that people think, wait, what? I only use my credit card. And so when I talk to her about your debit card doesn't give you any rewards. Right. Your credit card does give you rewards. And so, but what I want you to do is I want to, every Saturday morning, for you to pay the credit card off. So whatever you spent this week, you're going to pay that off. So the same money that you would use out of your checking account from your debit, right? But you're going to pay it off. And now you're going to never have to have interest. They call you a deadbeat. If you have a credit card and you don't pay, you have to pay interest. Yeah, so you don't, right. So the credit card company doesn't like it so much, but it works totally for you, right? And so you want to get the credit card, pay it off every Saturday. So then when the bill comes, you never have interest that is accumulated on the money, but But now you get these cash rewards. So now what do you do with the cash rewards? What do most people you think do with their cash rewards?
They spend it.
They spend it, right? They go right to Amazon or they book a trip. And I say, what I told my daughter is, no, we're going to take that unearned money. So that means that's money that you didn't go to work for. Your money is making money. And you're going to take that and buy another asset. You're going to go out and buy some stock. And so take that rewards money, and then she's bought Apple stock. Well, let's say you had Apple stock for the last, year, right? And you use that reward money. Apple stock is up like 30%. So that money now is doing what? Making more money. And then Apple is also a dividend paying stock. So now that stock is also paying you. So you want to be able to, regenerate that money 3-4 times. And then hopefully you get financial independence because you want to make so much money residually that it pays for your residual bill. So now that Apple bill, that cell phone bill that they have, right? That now is being paid from somewhere else. So that's the way to appropriately use money. And I always say, and use credit to your benefit, because you can have credit that will maybe help you get real estate. That can have, again, residual income. And that's always the goal.
And you know what, I've been doing what you said, but I've only been doing it for maybe about the last 2 years. And that was after having seen somebody talk about the same thing. But now I use my credit card and I do that. Don't always get to pay it all off every two. I do it every 2 weeks when I get paid. But I use a lot of times mine just to pay, I'll just put it right back into it, so it'd be just less that I have to pay on that bill. But that is so smart. Also, it just keeps, it's better for fraud purposes and, that type of thing too, just to use the credit card. And then I find myself trying to find credit cards that also will give me something, points or, airfare, a lot of times, whatever. But I think that's just important. Use it to your advantage in some type of way.
Absolutely. And I know that there's a lot of cards that you were saying that may give you airfare or that I'm going to use it to pay my credit card off. I tell people I want you to use it so your money starts making money. And because then now on your profits off of that money, now go buy your plane ticket.
No, that's true. Right. And I'm going to start doing that too.
Right, because now it goes. And so the whole thing is about using credit appropriately. So we talked about how to get to that 800. How do you get to the 800? You just got to make sure you look at the pie, the whole picture of it. You want to pay your bills on time. You want to make sure your debt is low. And so doing those things of paying them off. I like the weekly because, we all spend money weekly. And if you were using a debit card, it would be coming right out of your checking account. Okay. And so it may give you a place where I spent too much last week. I need to dial it back a little bit this week. Right. So that's kind of like that discipline that people have because that's what they are banking on. They're banking on giving you that credit. Right. And then you're going to, carry a balance. And so you don't want to do, you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that balance, you don't have that interest on there.
Yeah. Oh, that's so smart. That is wonderful information. And a lot of times people do think that this is just insurmountable. I'm not going to get to that, and they find themselves not having what they call the financial power. And the whole score is based, like you said, is like a mathematical. Wasn't it created by a mathematician and an investor or somebody? The whole thing, because they do the debt times, what is it? Your debt.
Well, it's just the different sectors. Okay. So you're looking at how much do you owe? You're looking at, do you pay your bills on time? You're also looking at how recently have you been, how many inquiries have you been making, right? And so that counts if you go and get a car and you're looking and there's a bunch of pulls on your credit, they'll look at it they're buying a car. But if every week you are going out and trying to apply for different credit cards, they're like, what's going up here?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's gonna ding you just like you said, are they asking a lot of people for money when you said that same thing? When you said somebody was borrowing?
Because that's what I was wondering, why is it bad when people look at your score? Why would that reduce
But because just think about it, if somebody was asking you for $5,000 and then you find out, they asked all the cousins for $5,000 too.
Okay, so it's just more or less
So it's like the banks are like,
they must be in
like,
a lot of need.
Right.
Or
They
something.
hear, like,
Okay.
why are they asking everybody for money? That's
Because I was
the
always
same
wondering
thing with
about
the
that. I
banks.
was just like, you're just checking to see what your score,
Right. Now, it's a difference between a soft pull and what we call a hard pull.
Okay.
So a soft pull, if you wanted to go to something like, Credit Karma, and you're just checking your checking your score, that's a soft pull.
Okay.
And you may even ask someone, are you going to do a soft pull or a hard pull?
Okay.
They're going to do a hard pull when you go to Nordstrom's and you're there and they say, oh, you can get 20% off. Would you like to get a credit card? They're doing a hard pull when you're credit. So if you have too many of those, that's what I'm saying. It kind of looks, negative because it's like, oh, they're out there trying to get credit from everybody, right? And so that's going to, ding you every time you have that card pull.
So would you recommend people only have a few credit cards, or what would your recommendation be?
Especially someone who's trying to get themselves together, right? So you want to limit, because you got to get that mindset right of using them correct first. And so, I can have, 10, 15 credit cards. For me, I have business credit, I have my personal credit, and I'm not using it, right? Because I have the right mindset.
Right.
And it's not like free money. One of the questions that my daughter just asked, and I keep referencing her because we have these questions all the time. She's in this like, I want to make sure I'm doing this right mind, like, thing. Yeah, so they just increased her credit limit to $8,000. And she says, oh, man, I'm about to go,
She's about to go ham.
She's like, I'm about to go.
Okay.
And then she's like, I want to get a new car. They're going to make me get a car. And she was just like, and I was like, okay. She said, well, I told her, I said, what I want you to do before you get a new car, I said, the average new car costs around $600 to $700 a month. I said, what I want you to do first is to have a bank account where you're putting that amount of money in every single month for at least 6 months. And then see what it feels like in your budget. Because I'm such a big budget person.
That's good.
It's like the budgeting is key. Most people don't budget. Most people, what they do is they write down on a piece of paper what they owe. And they just want to make sure they're going to have money left over. And they say, I have a budget, right?
Okay, so explain, what is the proper way of budgeting?
So a budget, every dime that comes to you is a resource. And it should have a home. And so every single dime.
My dimes are homeless.
Right. No, they're not homeless. Every dime. So most people will have their job, put their direct deposit into a bank account, and they may have some going to a savings, and then they pay their bills from their one main account, and then what's left over, if they have money left over, they'll say, okay, I'm really good at budgeting, right? And I say, no, you should have accounts broken up and gear marked for certain things. And I'm gonna tell you how crazy I am with it. When my twins got their driver's license, I started a bank account and named it tickets. Oh. And every single paycheck, I would put some money into that bank account, because what happens when you have young drivers? They're going to get a ticket, right? And it's the odds of them getting a ticket is so. And so what happens is most people do what? They be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you got this ticket. And they're trying to figure out where the money is coming from. No, I put it in my budget. Okay. So money was already earmarked. So when it happened, then it was already paid for. Same thing with transportation. Like, I haven't had a car note in years, but I still have an account that says transportation. Why? Because it is not some kind of mystery that I'm going to need to get my brakes done one day, or new tires, right? Or even a new car one day, because that's a depreciating asset. Yes. So every single paycheck, money is going into, for my budget for transportation. So then when it happens, guess what? The money is already earmarked in there. So every single thing that you could even think about, I always say your budget is your plan for your life. That's your goals. This is where I'm going. If you want to go on vacation, you don't need to give your money to a travel agent. You need to have an account yourself where you're gaining that interest, that money for yourself.
I have a little vacation account.
Right. So then once you can pay, you just pay it and write it off. So what do most people do? They then do what? Put it on credit cards. Yeah. They get in debt, right?
Like, I'm going to go and I'll worry about that later.
Right, I'll worry about it when I get home.
When I get home, right? We only live once, all that type of thing.
Correct. And so all of that is what I talk about mindset. And the mindset, and that's all credit is a mindset. It's an adult report card and showing, like, where has your mind been, right? And it's no It can definitely, you can definitely raise your score from wherever you are and just maintain it just by having the proper knowledge.
Yeah. And there's so much more you can do with good credit. I mean,
absolutely.
there's just so many. And you're rewarded for it. Obviously you're rewarded. You're given lower fees, lower rates on things. And when you think about it, when you have bad credit and you have to pay higher rates, it's almost like you're
it's
putting,
a double.
Yeah.
It's a double whammy.
It's a double whammy.
And it is 100%. It's a double whammy when you have bad credit. I mean, because now some apartments, if you're renting, they will check your credit. Some jobs are asking you for your credit, so you may not get employment because you don't have good credit. When you go, that's what I said, wherever you're traveling and what you're doing, and all of these different things are because of that one thing. But it's not the end of the road, even if you have a 400 credit score. You can definitely improve it. It's just going to take time. So you got to take the knowledge and apply the knowledge on how to get, how to get out, right? And you have to change your thought process. Figure out, maybe you need to pay some debt off. So you got to have a plan to do that. And that's why I said the foundation of that budget is really key. Because having I always tell people who are in debt, what's your debt freedom date?
Ooh, I love that.
What's your debt
What's
freedom
your emancipation
right.
day?
So you should be working on,
What is your credit emancipation?
What is your debt freedom date? Do you have that date? Whatever your amount is, I don't care if you're $300,000 in debt. You should be able to figure out, monthly, this is what I need to be paying on that debt so that I know that this is the date that I'm going to get out. Or I need to, I need to make some extra money. How can I bring an extra $500 into my income, into my household, so that $500 then goes to, I know exactly what it's earmarked for. So now you have a goal to run for something, right? Yes. It's something that you're running for, and that's why I say, what is your debt freedom date? And that's going to help your credit score as well, because now you're changing your mindset around that as well.
Oh my goodness, I'm telling you. Thank you so much. You have given a wealth of information. I mean, a wealth of it. I know you teach on this type of thing, and I can tell. Yes. I mean, I can tell that if given the time, you would keep on talking. But we do have to wrap up. But I hope that you all have learned a lot from this. Thank you so very much for being on my show. 2 shows in a row. So I appreciate
and I would love to come back.
Oh yeah, you're gonna be my go-to finance person. Whenever we talk about anything on money, I'm gonna call you first. But thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Enjoyed that information that she gave about credit. I hope that you all really learned a lot about it, because it is so important. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to have a good credit score. You can get so much more. You can buy things. They won't charge you as much interest. Everything pretty much that you do from a financial standpoint is built upon credit. Some people who hire people also look at people's credit. So I hope that you have learned from this. I really hope that you tell other people about it. Continue to follow me on Facebook as well as YouTube. And if you cannot watch the show, listen on the go wherever you get your podcast. Thanks again to the AKA Group for sponsoring us. And we'll see you again for another episode of the Public Opinion Show. Bye-bye.